Hey guys, welcome back. I know we're doing something a little different today. We are diversifying our portfolio here in 2025. So, to close out 2024, we're going to kick it off, right? We are finally here for my list of top 2024 top GLs and BLs, in my personal humble opinion. I'm gonna be honest with you, I do not know how long this is going to be, nor I know how long I'm going to be talking for, but I'm going to try my very best to put visuals somewhere so you can follow along with my rambles and shrambles, okay? First things first, I want to mention is the order that we're going to go. So we're going to go honorable mentions, and then we're going to go GLs, and then we're going to go BLs. These are not in any particular order like I did last year. I couldn't figure out how to put them in an order. We had so many good ones this year. So they're just kind of all at the same tier for different reasons, right? And so I tried to keep them at least to 10. But yeah. So starting off with my honorable mentions, Pit Babe. Pit Babe, for one, I think was the first time I noticed Change 2561, which I'm so happy it did because then they followed up with one of my top GLs. But I think that the show itself was really entertaining. It felt a little bit different. I love the discourse that was on for TikTok and YouTube while it was airing. And I genuinely enjoyed the show. It's not a rewatch for me. I definitely like the first one. I'm super scared for the second one, especially with everything that's going down right now with the author changing up some things and stuff like that. I liked that it was different. I wish they had done a little bit more of the Omegaverse stories, and believe with that what you will. But when done well, it can be done well. And I feel like if they were so close to pushing the line that if they just would have pushed it a little bit more, it would have been like golden. But it was a good show. Definitely up there for real. Um, Next is The Rebound. Now, The Rebound wasn't the greatest show ever, right? I'm not going to sit here and tell you like it's going to go out there and win some awards. But I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I thought Megan Pink did so well, and even the whole cast, all the side couples. I was kicking and giggling for the show. I think a lot of times it didn't make no sense, but in it's not making sense, it made so much sense. I was like, when's the next episode? It was cute. It was funny. It was flirty. It was ridiculous. um, and just all around, just a fun. It was a fun watch for me, at least. Um, and I love that it brought Ming Ping to my screen again. And I enjoy me some Ming Ping. It also made me rewatch I Long Nai, because I did not enjoy I Long Nai the first time around. Rewatched it again on Viki with the proper subtitles. Got better. And so I was super pumped for My Dear Gangsta Oppa and then The Rebound. Okay. Windy Good Day. Excellent, excellent rom-com by GMMTV. Just not my favorite. It was so well. It was such an excellent adult rom-com. I mean, it had romance. It didn't have too much unnecessary drama. I mean, we were going back and forth. The whole kiss thing was a hoot and a holler and a good time. I love the boxing aspect. I love how they handled the trauma for both the brother and for both brothers. Okay, I loved the second couple. I loved the first couple. GMMTV hit that one all the way out the park. They had me this close to buying them elephant pants. It was in my basket, and if I had the money, I would have pressed purchase. Okay, I was this close. I couldn't do it though. I didn't have the money, but everybody else who got the necklace and the parachute pants, they looked so cute. They did. It just wasn't for me. But I truly enjoyed that show. I really did. My last honorable mention is Twins. Now, once again, Twins was not the best show. But did I have a good time watching it? I did. I had an excellent time watching Twins. I love that we had sports that are rarely discussed. Like, they're always talking about soccer, they're always talking about basketball. But, like, what was it? MMA or jiu-jitsu, and then volleyball, rarely talked about sports, and I love that they brought them up. This was only my second twin show, right? There wasn't that many out at the time, so the whole twins aspect was really fun. Why each twin, every time we bring up twins, one of them has to be in the coma? I don't know, but that might be a conversation we need to have, because I don't know if twins always one needs to be in a coma. We might need to find a new recipe. Not me. Pluto, twins. Might be time for something different. But I had a good time. I liked the main couple. They were a fun time both on and off my screen. Um, and it was entertaining. It was entertaining. It was really a binge show. Like, that show was better when I was binging the episodes back to back than waiting for them week to week. Um, So that's always a fun thing to try to figure out whether a show is like bingeable or like weekable, so like watch weekly, or should I just binge a couple episodes at a time, depending on my schedule. That's just kind of how life goes. But that was a really fun watch for me. It really truly was. So yeah, those are my honorable mentions. I would love to hear your honorable mentions down in the comments below. Anything and everything that you think was not your top BL or GL, but it was good enough to be mentioned. Go ahead and put it down in the comments. Okay, so next we're going to talk about my top GLs, and I think I know for certain my top, I know what my top GL is, right? I don't really have to debate that one, right? All the other ones, okay, so I know my top one, and then I know my least favorite GL, and then everything else is concurrently kind of in the middle somewhere. So I guess we'll kind of work down and up. So, GMMTV's first GL, 23.5. I've said it before. I have no shame in saying it. It was not my favorite GL. I loved that they were giving us a high school GL, and I loved that they used McLove, and I loved that GMMTV tried it. But that's what they did. They tried it. I think they're doing so much better with Pluto, honestly, which would probably definitely go down as one of my top 2025 GLs. But it just didn't. And to be fair, you can argue that it wasn't made for me, which is a fair argument. But I've also seen GMMTV make high school BLs that hit both high schoolers and non-high schoolers. So I just feel like 23.5, they were just kind of trying it out just to see the reaction. And as a GLer, I watched it, of course, to participate. And I really wanted to show that GLs are watchable and profitable. Clearly, it was profitable enough. GMMTV is coming out with, I think, 3 more GLs next year, 2 of which star McLove. So clearly they heard, right, our voices. But yeah, it just wasn't a top contender for me. So yeah. So Love Senior, although majority of the show was in 2023, it did technically end in 2024, so I'm counting it as my top 2024 show. So that being said, I loved Love Senior. I did, even though the YouTube version of it sucked because of copyright issues. I loved Love Senior. I loved the drama-ness of it, the back and forth of it, and it was just a fun time. And at the time, we only had like 3 or 4 GLs when it came out. So I was like ecstatic that we had another GL, one from Star Hunter, and then 2 just another BL company trying out GLs. I was so excited about it. I truly enjoyed it. I haven't watched the special yet. I'm probably going to end up watching that early January, February-ish. But I hope that I love it as much as the trailer. I loved the trailer of the second part of the special. So, and I loved that Love Senior gave us a villain, female, like a female villain. I loved that. She was so hard in her revenge era. Did she go too much or too far or too fast? 100%. I don't know if we needed to be that angry. Granted, she had motive. I'm not going to sit here and tell you the world was not stacked against her, because that would have been a lie. But I don't know if we needed to go that hard on it, you know? But it was just a fun show. It was a fun show for me. Reverse for You was on Netflix. That one was fun. My issue with Reverse for You is the ending. And that's why it's not a top one for me. I loved everything about it. The time power aspect of it, the big sister taking care of little sister, the dad coming out of nowhere and saving the day. I loved the chemistry and the dynamic between the 2 leads. The storyline itself was fun. I liked that she kept freezing time, but it was like the science of the time freezing was not continuous throughout the show, so that really bothered me. That's one of my major problems with one of my top BLs as well. It's just the way they explain the time aspect. It just got lost in the middle of the sauce, and I just couldn't, like, I came up with a way to explain it in my head, but it's just, I wish the flow would have stayed in the show, you know? But yeah, that was a good one too. It really was. Pretty much all the GLs this year were really good. They were good for different reasons, you know? Next up was Chaser Game W. Chaser Game W is my top Japanese GL. I love Chaser Game W to the moon and back. Chase the Game W, when that show came out, I was like, guys, look at the masterpiece that came out of Japan. Look at this. This needs awards. This needs significance. Somebody needs to flash this thing in the middle of an arena so everybody can know that this show exists. And I feel like they don't know. I feel like they don't know. It was a gaga ooh la la. It was my whole life. Every time that show came out, I was seated, sat, covered up, and ready to go. Oh, I love that show so much. It was basically the story of these two exes who dated in college, right? And then they broke up, and then they met together again in the workforce. And one of the exes was just so cold and so mean and just honestly a little abusive. We're just being honest. But the story follows them, working through the dynamics of being an LGBT couple in Japan. And one of the ladies at this time, she was married and a child, and so her husband had to deal with that dynamic, and then he couldn't handle, so he left for several, I'm gonna say weeks, but honestly, I don't do time in shows. Y'all know this. I don't know how to do it. And so, that's more time for the ladies to get back together and fall deeper and realize that they were just so in love. Not that I don't think the lady didn't love her husband, but I also know for a fact that she only married him because of her mama. And if you watch part 2, Chase the Game W2, which is also on Gaga Ooh La La, I'm about one episode for finishing that one, you will see that the relationship between the lead and her mama is scary. Her mama is scary. So I understand why she did what she did. And it's no fault of her own. She got it together in part 2, but part 1, it ended in a way that doesn't make you entirely ecstatic, But it was a really, really, really good show. It was definitely up there. The ones following this point up are like all tied together for me as good, great. It could be better, but it won't be. Like, that's what's coming up. So Chase the Game W. Secret of Us. The Secret of Us was literally the story of the title. It was the story of two people who met, and then again, because of family, end up breaking up and then meeting again later in life. And one of them again was just cold and just angry. She was so angry for so long. And watching it, I think this was the Thing Orm. They were so good. They acted their butts off in this. No wonder they won so many awards. The crying was so intense. Oh, their first breakup scene was heart-wrenching, guys. Like I saw myself in her, in Juan, I think her name was. Like, I couldn't process. It was so heavy. It was so heavy. And when they came back, it took them so long to shake off the past. Because it just kept following them. Because I think Juan, right? Her mom was just ever present, just not down for the cause. Dad was cool though. Dad was like, let her love who she's gonna love. She's still gonna be our daughter. She's still gonna do her best. Like, you messing up a good thing for no reason. But yeah, the mom, just did not enjoy her company at all. But that was such a good show, guys. I'm sorry, I'm getting over a cold, but it was such a good show. It was so good. It was so good. But yeah. And you can see, like, if you want to know how I felt, like, moment by moment for all these shows, they're all on my TikTok. You can go and scroll and episode by episode me of my unhinged reactions to it. Even though sometimes I would consider myself very hinged. But Secret Life was so good. It was so good. It really was. Anyway, next up is Affair, another show that won a bunch of awards and that took the world by storm, and that was from Change 2561. It was their first GL. Hopefully they come up with more. It broke the internet. I'm positive of this. I am positive Secret of Us, Affair, and Blank, which is my top GL for the year, it broke the GL internet, guys. People are rewatching these shows right now, back to back to back to back, because you can't process it in one go. You can't. It was so intense. Affair was so intense. It was so heavy. It was so much. These two best friends who clearly have felt something for each other since high school, okay? They grew up together. They were in love in high school. You can bet. I will put money on it, and I don't even gamble that these two were in love since high school, okay? And life and circumstance, once again, just drew these two ladies apart. And It was so heart-wrenching because to see, I'm going to, names. I don't do, you guys know how I am with names. But so basically there's a rich one and a poor one. Let's just do with that. It's dumbing it down. Okay, they're both complex characters, but it's gonna make it easier for me to explain this. Um, so basically best friends for their entire high school life, right? What ends up happening is the rich one, basically her whole life is just changed and not for the better. Um, but before that, right, they go through this like back and forthness because the rich one's clearly, I think the poor one, she doesn't have any like issues with being in love with her best friend. This is her life. This is all she knows. Um, but you know, the rich one, she couldn't. It took her the longest. I'm talking, y'all, the entirety of the show basically to be like, oh, this is the woman I love. Even though we knew that she loved her, and everybody else knew that this woman was her one and only, at least best friend wise. Like you couldn't find one without the other. They were that attached for their lives. Basically, her life is uprooted, and she ends up becoming a doctor. The poor one ends up becoming a doctor, and the rich one ends up becoming poor. But she's a singer. So doctor and singer now are the names, right? So doctor is currently going through this divorce, and that's where the title affair comes from, because they end up having an affair, because technically the doctor has not divorced her husband, but I promise you, if you have watched the show, they were over. They were separated and they were over. But he just couldn't let go for the life of him. His name was Eck. Remember that name? And forever hate it. Because he was awful. And a lot of people like to explain, oh, you know, you do crazy things for love. I hear you. I hear you. I believe you. I see you. And I know what you speak of is true, right? But absolutely not. X actions, absolutely. I can't get, no. If you watch the show, okay, birthday scene, absolutely not. And then they're gonna have the audacity to have Doctor forgive him at the end. I wanted to fight a screen so hard. I was angry. I was heated. That was my first one I watched on TikTok live, because I finally got my TikTok live. And so that was my first one that I watched, and I got to watch it with one of my TikTok mutuals, and I was so excited about it. But we watched it together, and it was so intense, and I just remember myself being so angry. I was so angry. Unfortunately, you can't rewatch that one because it's nowhere. It was on a live. On that note, though, when Girls Love comes out, GMTV, that will also be on live, so keep a lookout for that. But yeah, I loved Affair. I loved a lot of things about Affair except that part in the ending. The part where they end up having her forgive, and then the part where she ended up forgiving her mama. Didn't like that part either. Not that whole apology was for the mama. It wasn't for them. I didn't like it, and I didn't like the apology to the ex. Other than that, loved that show. I truly, truly did. Finally, my favorite one is Blake. Blake is my top GL. Like, it's my top GL. It's my top GL for 2024. It's my top GL for all the GLs. I love Blake so hard and so fast. Okay, so Blake, funnily enough, Blank, Affair, Gap, all from the same. Oh, and Apple, which is on Gaga. Apple's on Gaga. Gap is on YouTube from Idol Factory. Affair is changed to 561's IGE. And then Blank is YouTube 9 Star Studios. But yeah, Blank is the story of Sam's sister from Gap, right? So Gap was my top GL of 2023. I loved Gap to the moon and back. Also, granted, it was the first GL that I've watched. So that might also have something to do with it. I haven't rewatched it since, but I loved Blank. You can argue to a wall with me about Blank, because I will not listen. I don't care if your points are valid. I don't care if you're making the perfect kind of sense. If you're speaking the entirety of my language, I will not hear you blasphemy. I will not hear your blasphemy on that show, because that show can do no wrong for me, guys. And I know a lot of people aren't down with the age gap. I hear you. I see you. I'm not saying what you're saying is untrue, okay? Because if you haven't watched it, the age gap is 20 to 36, and technically the 20-year-old starts in her last year of high school. So I hear you. on the appropriateness. I'm here for it. But I also like to mention I have watched a lot of Thai BLs and GLs, not that this excuses it, where the Thai high schooler is left by their lonesome. So if you didn't want that type of behavior, I don't know. Maybe watch your kids. I don't know. That all being said, uh, it's just the story of two people growing into themselves, figuring themselves out, fighting the world for their love, and then loving each other. I love Blank so much. Okay, it's Arnoon and I call her baby girl, but basically it's Faye and Yoko. Those are the actresses. Oh god, guys, I can't even. Yoko was actually also on Reverse for You. She did a little cameo. But I cannot explain to you the level of awe that this show was for me. It's almost a year old. I think it's like 9 months now. It was so good. It was so good. On the story of Yoko, or Baby Girl as I called her in the show, she was from a teenage pregnancy. She lived with her grandma, who was abusive in the whole first half of the show. I don't know how we forgot that as the show was progressing. Okay, they just like tossed it to the back burner. I'm like, no, this woman hit her. Like, she was abused. She was power hungry and abusive, and she was so gung ho about baby girl not becoming her mother. She was out of control, and I don't know why everybody stopped mentioning that after like the 6th episode. I'm still angry about it. I just recently just rewatched it, so it's still like fresh in the dome. But like, oh, still so angry. And so baby girl meets Arnung, right? Faye's character. And so basically baby girl, Yoko's character, she is obsessed from jump. She's like, this is the woman I am going to love for the rest of my life. And she holds steadfast to that. Now technically Blank has 2 seasons, right? Each season has 6 episodes. So it's like a 12-episode show, right? But they broke it up into 2 seasons. So 2 6-episode seasons. And so yeah, it's a phenomenal story. And so it gets all this drama because baby girl's mother comes back. She finds out who her dad is, and there's all this interconnections of their life. Um, and then you get to this point kind of like where there are a couple of moments, and I said this in my TikTok reviews, where the age thing is obvi. You can see in how they act, their responses, you know, their understanding of certain things. There are certain points where the age thing is very prominent. And I think that was super realistic of their writing and directorial choices because, age is a number, right? It doesn't equal maturity, understanding, or significance times in your life, right? Because everybody ages differently and everybody matures differently. But there are certain things I think that are generational that no matter how understanding both parties are, it's just going to be a moment where you just may not understand each other, right? And they had a couple of those moments between the 2 main characters. And I think I clocked a couple of them. I may have missed some as well. But other than that, the story, I thought, even dealing with their age differences was so well done because there were moments where Faye's character is like 36, right? So there are moments where Arnoon, that's Faye's character, she was so, in my personal opinion, immature. She didn't know how to process emotionally. And even though she was always very caretakery, right? There was, especially in the beginning, where she was like so against this. And so there's like stages, right? So there was moments where she was so against um just Yoko's character as a whole, just being in her presence. And then those moments where she's falling in love, she's fighting it because the age difference, because of who she finds out she's related to, because of class, because of like places in their life. There's so many things. But the fight becomes so in many stages kind of immature that you're kind of like, oh, okay, you're not only is your age showing, but your understanding is showing, right? And then there's moments on the flip side where Yoko's character, baby girl, once she gets into college, it's more like season 2, and her age and her understanding and her emotional immaturity starts showing. And we had jelly moments. We had moments where they had to self-reflect individually, self-reflect together, fight against the family, societal norms. But my favorite thing about this show, and keep in mind that I love a wedding scene and I love an exchange of tokens, so like a necklace exchange or bracelets, earrings, whatever, right? We get to this scene at the end of the show And we get to the scene at the end of the show, and it's basically we get to watch them age together. And I promise you that was like one of my favorite scenes, because we never get to see the couples age together, right? Like there are very few times we get to see that they got past where they were and to show that they were still together later. Now, does every couple that gets together stay together forever? No, absolutely not. And I know they don't. But the fact that we got to see them grow old together, guys, I loved that so much. There was something so beautiful about that, and I love that they chose to put that in the show. It was like my favorite thing ever. It was my favorite thing ever, and I'm so happy that I watched it and I got to see that, and I hope more shows give me that. I love a wedding. I love, because weddings don't show happily ever after. Weddings show happy for now. You know that they got together and they made this commitment on this day that we are going to be together forever, maybe, right? Versus what this was doing was this was showing me happy ever after. This was showing me after all the fuss, all the fumble, all of this, all of that, they ended up together and they chose each other again and again and again and again. 10 years later, 4 years later, 6 years later, they kept choosing each other. And then it infers that they, died together because they walk off into the beach sunset together. And the actors they got to see them age were like so real. I loved it so much. I know I was rambling on that one, but it was my favorite GL. It's my favorite GL. It's my top GL. I love that show so much. Anyway, so those are my top GLs. No honorable mentions because I pretty much named all of them that came out, and the ones that I did name, I did not watch yet. For instance, I didn't finish Trisha Game W2. I didn't watch Apple. I didn't watch Mate because I didn't realize it was only going to be on WeTV, and I don't have WeTV. And then I didn't watch Unlock Your Love, even though I watched Lucky My Love. So at some point, I do also need to watch that. But yeah, I would love to hear about your favorite GL down in the comments below. And yeah, or even your honorable mentions. GLs this year were so good. I'm so excited to see what we do next year. And Jack and Joker was definitely one of the top ones for sure. Is it my top for 2024? Maybe. I really enjoyed it. So maybe I will say that The Unknown, Jack and Joker, and Blank were my top 3 for 2024. I'm comfortable with that. That's my top 3 for 2024. Not in any particular order, because that would get me into another discussion that just feels long, and this is already a very long video. I did not expect it to be this long, guys. Thank you for sticking with me. But I would love to hear your top BLs. I really would. And why, I think everybody has a different reason for liking what they like, and I think that sharing the reason that you like what you like may help somebody else like it too. I know it helps me sometimes if I can get a different perspective on a show, and then I can go back and watch it with like a different understanding of it and maybe understand it a little bit more. It may still not be for me, but at least I have a better understanding of what the show is trying to do or trying to say, or at least what another person thinks it's trying to do or trying to say. But yeah, I just want to thank everybody for coming on this 2024 journey with me. It's been so long and so fun and so very inconsistent, guys, because I'm working on my consistency this year. That is one of my BLGL 2024 goals, is to work on my consistency and just to try to create different kind of content, talk a little bit more about going in depth about some things, because I have thoughts, and I think one of my things is I sometimes get a little hesitant to share my thoughts because I'm not sure if everybody has the same thoughts as me, but my 2025 goal is to just share them regardless, and we shall see what happens. So keep a lookout for some different type of content this year and some more content continuing. If TikTok does disappear for the US, I will be on YouTube and Instagram probably. And I'm on Blue Sky now too, so I very rarely am on there, but I am on there occasionally. So yeah. Thank you so much. Again, I would not be here without you guys, whether you're watching me on YouTube or TikTok. I want to thank you for all your watches, even if you only watched me for a second and you skipped past. I want to thank you for all of your comments, your concerns, your shares, your likes and your hearts and everything in between and around. Yeah. That all being said, I cannot wait to see the BLs and the GLs we get next year. I'm going to try to keep a better record of the shows. We shall see what happens. I'm hoping that I can do better, but life. And I hope that you guys stick around for another year of this and to see all the things that I have coming out and coming forward. But yeah, thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next year.